Oh, thank you. Please sit down. I called you in today because, unfortunately, I just finished grading your essay, and it seems that you are going to need some private tutoring. Erotic roleplay can be an excellent way to keep your relationship fun, fresh, and exciting. But there are also some guidelines I would definitely recommend to make sure that your erotic roleplay stays hot and healthy and doesn't accidentally beckon in some insecurity and disconnection instead. And the first principle of hot and healthy roleplay is to plan it out. Now, planning an erotic connection is not new to those of us in the BDSM lifestyle, especially those of us dominants. But for those of you curious vanillas or navigating newbies, the concept of planning out a sexual encounter can be kind of daunting, intimidating, and overwhelming. So when I talk about planning out your erotic roleplay, I'm talking about first starting with a conversation to discover what you and your partner both find arousing. Is it a teacher-student dynamic? Is it a cop and a prisoner? What is it? What personally arouses you and your partner? And the goal here is to find common ground, to find erotic roleplay scenes and ideas that are equally arousing to you and your partner, because this is going to keep you both in your respective roles as the roleplay begins. And I have a couple tips for you when you're planning it out. Introduce your ideas in a fun way that builds intimacy. This can look like anything from writing out your ideas on little scraps of paper and sliding them across the table over a nice romantic dinner and gently being able to see, oh, this is what you find exciting, this is what I find exciting, in a really safe, non-threatening way. Or you can take turns grabbing an item or a prop or a piece of clothing as kind of a way to give your partner a clue as to what you're thinking and what kind of role play scene might be enticing to you. I would also suggest that you have a general outline for your scene. Now, don't fret, this does not have to be line by line like you're writing a script, but this is generally a, hey, this is where we are and this is where we want to go kind of thing. If you kind of have a general outline as to where you eventually want your role play scene to go, it will keep both you and your partner focused and on point during play. If you really want to take your role play a step further, take some time to learn your roles. If you're stepping into a role that is totally outside of your natural mode of operation, it can really be beneficial for you just getting into the role mentally, emotionally, etc., to do some research on that kind of role. If you are playing an executive or a professor or a cop, a doctor, an investigator, etc., it can kind of start sinking you into that headspace along with giving you some confidence. When you do your research, you're going to pick up on vernacular and perhaps ways of thinking or ways of speaking and things that will help you fuse that into your erotic roleplay. And finally, when it comes to planning your erotic roleplay scene, I would highly advise you to establish a safe word. Now, just because this isn't an edge play scene or an impact play scene or something that's intense, now your roleplay can take on a very, very intense form. I actually just wrote 2 stories this month about CNC themed roleplay. So roleplay can take on a very intense style and it can be considered edge play, but you don't have to go there with your roleplay. You can do something that's more softer, more sweet, even a little silly. But I would still advise you to establish a safe word, if for no other reason than to give all partners peace of mind and full freedom of expression, that we can totally be in character, we can totally just let that role overtake us, say what we want to say in that role, act how we want to act in that role, take on a persona totally foreign to our normal mode of operation, and you know what? I can say whatever the fuck I want unless I hear this one word or say this one word. See what I mean? It ensures that you can totally sink into your role without worry, and so can I. Full freedom of expression. My second principle for hot and healthy role play is to use visual cues, props, outfits, etc. And you can do this in a couple of different ways. Number one, just look around your house. I'm sure that you can find an old pair of glasses that you don't use that you can pop out the lenses, and there you go. You can start sinking into that teacher role or professor role, etc. And you can use anything from schoolwork, file folders, a first aid kit, a do not disturb sign, etc. Really, your imagination is the limit here. Just look around the house and see what could we incorporate into the role play scene that we wish to accomplish.
Sorry to keep you waiting, Mrs. Hawkins.
Actually, Doctor, it's Miss.
Or if you'd like to shop a little bit, you can always invest in a role play wardrobe. And although this is a little bit more pricey, it can still be done in a cost-effective way. And I also think there's benefit in doing this in fully dressing up in costume, especially for newbies who are shyly dipping their toes into the role play waters. Seeing yourself in a different outfit, even with a different wig, etc., can really help jolt your mind out of just your normal personality. And it can actually give you a lot of freedom to start speaking a different way, walking a different way, using a different tone of voice, using a different vocabulary, etc., and really start taking on a different role. So yes, absolutely, if it's not in the budget for you, you can totally accomplish some hot and healthy role play just using some things around your house. However, for those of you who are a little bit more shy, a little bit more nervous going into this, taking on a full costume, a full outfit can really, really help your headspace. But regardless of what you do, my pro tip here is to keep your partner out of the outfit selection process so that it is totally new, a total surprise, and the first time they see you is in your role. The first time they're hit with that new wave of energy is when they see you in that role for the first time. Ooh, and it can be an absolutely delicious way to really help your partner sink into that headspace as well. My next tip for hot and healthy role play is to get out of the bedroom. Now, chances are your bedroom is where you and your partner or partners typically most of the time have sex, right? So this is when you go into the bedroom and you have your normal sexual experiences, even if they're non-vanilla, even if they're kinky. That's you and your normal natural personality being kinky with your partner or partners, right? So that's you in your normal natural headspace going into that room that has a history of sexual encounters for you. Well, if we're taking on a different role, we're trying to take on a different persona, headspace, etc., get out of the bedroom. If you're doing a teacher-student role play, go in your office or set up a little home office in your dining room or something. If you're role playing, a college student who's a babysitter, whatever, use the living room, put on some DVDs in the living room and get out some schoolwork on the couch, whatever, like it's a college student, you know what I mean? Use your environment to do the role play. And for those of you voyeurs and exhibitionists, you can always get out of your house completely. Go up in the club, go to a bar, go somewhere where you can meet each other for the first time and pick each other up.
I'm Clive. Clive Bixby.
Yes, I can see that. I'm Juliana. So, Clive, you in town for a convention, or do you just forget your name a lot?
My next point for hot and healthy role play is to respond in the moment. In other words, use the context that you are presented with. So for instance, let's say your partner is complaining of some back pain that day. Well, that might be a great opportunity for you to initiate a nice little sensual massage role play with a little happy ending. And this really means stopping and being mindful and present enough to go, how would this role respond? Not how would I naturally respond? We have to step out of how you would naturally respond and how would the role respond in this situation? How would a doctor respond to what they just said or did? How would an executive just respond to what they just said or did? How would a cop or an investigator respond to what they just said or did, etc.? And the absolutely most important point of the day when it comes to hot and healthy role play is to avoid eroticized infidelity.
I probably shouldn't be talking to you. I'm a married man.
Ah, well, I just so happen to like married men. Tell me about your wife.
Well, she's beautiful, of course.
Like, well, if she's so very beautiful, why are you here with me?
Because she's always so tired and she's always making lists of things for me to do.
Maybe if you did them, she wouldn't be so tired.
Stop and think through this with me. If you're stepping into a role where you are having an affair on your partner, even if it is with your partner, right? If in your mind the role is I'm cheating on my partner, I'm being unfaithful to my partner, I'm sneaking around behind my partner's back, then what you're doing is planting the thought of infidelity, right? And then you're adding sexual pleasure to that thought through the role play. And that is a very, very dangerous path to walk down, because essentially what you're doing is creating a situation where your infidelity is eroticized and then adding pleasure to that eroticized thought. So really my question is, why would you even want to go there? If your purpose of doing this role play is to bring connection, eroticism, passion back into your connection with your partner, to reestablish some intimacy, to reestablish all of these beautiful connections that you crave, why would you even want to plant that thought in your partner's mind or your own mind? Why would you ever want to reinforce the thought that it would be sexually pleasing or gratifying to your partner for them to cheat on you? Why would you ever want to go there? So there are a couple of ways to very practically avoid eroticized infidelity in your role play. So essentially you are going to create the context in your hot and healthy role play of assumed detachment. And here are a couple practical ways to go about that. Number one, don't ask about other partners. So don't say things like, have you ever brought your wife here? Or where's your husband this evening? Etc. Don't ask about other partners. And number two, don't state other attachment. So you want to avoid statements such as, oh, we have to hurry before my husband gets home, or my wife is visiting her mother this weekend, etc. Do you see what I'm saying about creating the context of assumed detachment? Okay, yeah, you can go out in public and pick each other up for the first time, but the assumed attachment is that you're both single meeting each other for the first time. It's like, what would happen in another life if we were to meet? Not in this life, I'm cheating on you, with you, and kind of twisting it up in my mind. What is going on here? We're getting it cozy, just momentarily. Hold. We good? Okay. I don't even know where I was.